Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Logan, the Metal and Beer Snob, and tonight I'm here with one of my first year-end list style videos. This, though, is not about the music, it's about the other rock star in this genre of music we call metal. It's about album covers. That's right, honestly, one of the biggest things that draws me to metal in general is how much pride and effort goes into creating some of the artwork that adorns some of our favorite releases. So I've always tried to highlight my favorite album covers of every year. So for the year of 2024, this is a video dedicated to my top 10 favorite album covers that were released in this year, where I do my best to highlight the artists that created these masterpieces that are on our favorite albums. I don't want to dilly-dally too much, so without further ado, let's crack a beer and get into some metal album covers. Like last year, I'm going with the same beer. It's a classic, and honestly, I can't really find much can art in New Orleans, Louisiana that really holds a candle to that of Ghost in the Machine from Parish Brewing. This time I also have the box, so you can see it a little more up close and personal, and on a better camera this year too. Look at us upgrading. But no, great IPA with just a classic design that is honestly actually known internationally as well. So happy to be in the same state as such a fine IPA like Ghost in the Machine. Easily one of those like IPAs that is deceptively heavy. Like there's a lot of taste to it, but then at the same time, you gotta realize this is a good beer for sure. Probably one of the best IPAs I've had down here. And then, while we're talking about what's going on, in the peripheral, what we're listening to in the background is actually one of the albums that I highlighted last year, based on the album cover. This is Majesties with their debut, Vast Reaches Unclaimed. This was one of my favorite albums of the year last year, and also one of my favorite album covers. So I felt it was fitting to highlight it once again and to show it off. But now, let's get into the actual list. And I want to open it up by saying that I am by no means an artist whatsoever. This is purely just me looking at it as a fan and as a lover of just awesome artwork in general. Also, to hop up on a soapbox before we dive in, I think in the year where AI really jumped onto the scene for album covers, it's more important than ever to highlight the actual artists that created these pieces of art and to really focus on the human element that creates heavy metal and the package overall. Without further ado, let's go. I'm going to do 5 honorable mentions real quick before jumping into the top 10. So for my 5th honorable mention, I have Wormwood's album The Star. So this was a cover done by Luca Martinotti, also known as Solo Marcello. He's from Italy. You can find him on Instagram. As soon as I looked up his previous work, I recognized a whole bunch of them. This one, though, is pretty unique, and why I had to include it. It honestly didn't impress me in the beginning, but the more you look, the more you notice. Honorable mention number 5. Honorable mention number 4 comes in as Inconcessus Lucius with their album Temples Colliding in Fire. And look at this thing. This is one of those album covers which is just inherently busy, but therein lies the appeal. I mean, you got like the Notre Dame Cathedral just ablaze with like satanic and serpentine vengeance. But then you also have a cool like warrior over here. I don't know. Really cool album cover. Art was by David Glamba. And the honorable mention number 3, we have Una Sprecklin Colton with their album Haxen Sabbath. This is a very unsettling piece of artwork. Then the more you look, the more you notice there's all kinds of stuff in here. We're talking just human anatomy all over the place. The more you look, the more genitalia pop up at you. The central figure, though, is quite ominous. This cover was done by Rodrigo Pereira Salvateria, which he's also from Chile, which is where this band is from. Honorable mention number 2, we've got Morgul Blade's Heavy Metal Wraiths. And this is an art by James Buscema. This guy popped up on my best of list last year, and I'm just happy to include him again here. Love this thing. Just Lord of the Rings all over it. We got the Nazgul. We've got the Fell Beasts. It's fucking badass is what it is. It's cool, and apparently it's a very good representation of Morgul Blade as a band as well. Honorable mention number 1. This is Slime Lord, and I'm just putting all these tough to pronounce bands and album titles here for me. Ketradomycosis Relinquished. And this is a cover done by Brad Moore, aka ArtWizard76 on Instagram. And he really has one of the most unique styles that I've seen out there. It's immediately recognizable, and I love it every time. I think it especially works with this album, which is very much, it's centered around a giant leviathan as it decomposes, and on all the fauna and carrion that kind of sprouts out of its decaying corpse. Fucking brutal. And now we're diving into the top 10. I thought these ones were definitely head and shoulders just impressive visually and left a lasting impression throughout the year. So at number 10, we have Antichrist Siege Machine with the cover of Vengeance of Eternal Fire. So this one was done simply by an artist known as Bernie, also known as Bat Dog on Instagram. And my god, poor Jesus, I actually feel for the guy on this album cover. It's impressive how it has this classic Renaissance style feel to it, and it's just pretty visceral at the same time. Like the facial expressions on the devil and Jesus as they do this tango. But then it's one of those covers where the more you look, the more you see. We've got Cerberus in the background here, lapping up at the fires of Satan, and then an interesting stairwell on the right side too. Definitely an album cover worthy of like flags and t-shirts. And then at number 9, we have Hyperdontia with their latest album, Harvest of Malevolence. Now this is done by longtime favorite artist Wes Binscoter, another one who appeared on my list last year. This is just a bizarre cover, and I love it for it. How often do you see like a pirate ship on an album cover and it not be like some Ailstorm album? So much detail, and it feels like some more fucked up version of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Dead Man's Chest with like Davy Jones' ship. I love the weird transition between the water and like this kind of hellscape at the very front. Like all these are demons crawling straight out of the infernos of hell to the wide open ocean. And then once again, it's like you look into the backdrop and the image just like keeps going with this interesting ruins in the back. And I love how everything else is kind of shrouded in fog. So really cool album cover, and I don't know, Hyperdontia always do great. Wes Binscoter always does amazing as well. Number 8, and this is a different kind of album cover for this list. It's actually beautiful. This is Alcest's latest album, La Chante de l'Aurore. La Chante de l'Aurore? Aurore? Fuck. You know what I'm trying to say. This is breathtaking. It's really just, it's beautiful, and it's not dark, it's not menacing, it's very natural, which also fits in with the music of Alcest and especially the music on here. And I think really the feel of this album cover fits the music on this album. This is really Alcest's most hopeful and like just uplifting release that they've done, that I've heard. And I think this exemplifies it. I just love the color palette that they've chosen. It's very warm. There are some darker elements here, but then everything is kind of slowly being washed out by the warmth that is coming from the figure, playing the flute in the sun. And then just watching the birds and their unique dances is just super fucking cool. But yeah, this art was done by a fellow Frenchman, Johan Loisel. Next up at number 7, we've got Nails with their new album, Every Bridge Burning. This is their 4th release, and once again, it's an album cover done by Rest from Leviathan. And this thing is crazy. It's visceral and pissed off and easily matches the tone of the music overall, which I think this is Nails at their most pissed that I've heard in at least 2 albums. I also once again like the mixing of the elements here. We've got water below, fire above, this visceral face rising through it all. And there's an interesting like Japanese influence or Chinese influence here that I think Rest is kind of incorporated to make it a little bit different than his average album cover. Once again, there is a full piece. This is just a part of a full piece, and it includes a literal bridge burning, which I just love the dedication to that idea. Well done, Nails, and well done, Rest. Number 6, we've got Necrot with their latest album, Lifeless Birth. This one was done by Merald van Hasteren. Oof, sorry. And this is just a crazy demon. The craziest demon of the year for sure. Look at the horns on this thing. Look at the mouth. Look at the other mouth. I am definitely uncomfortable, but really impressed by what this demon has going on, He's got a slim build, but is ripped. Not to mention the impressive infinity human circle he's got going on. I don't know, this is maybe an interpretation of the 9th Circle of Hell. It's immediately badass and stands out and is a great pairing with Necrot's latest. And once again, this is another one where the full piece is worth looking at in addition to just the cover that they used. Alright, then number 5, this man had to be mentioned. This is a Paolo Girardi piece. We're looking at Altar of Oblivion with their latest album, In the Cesspit of Divine Decay. And for those who know or remember, Paolo over here did my favorite album cover of last year. He did Sulphur Aeon with their Seven Spires album cover. And this one is awesome. It's close to it. It's a very different vibe from that album cover. And once again, it just is war in like the most rotted and decrepit way possible. Like the amount of bodies and just corpses here. Once again, it's a kind of like a passage of time, and you see the cesspit on the right just eating everything. Humanity, cities, and all. And I don't know if this is Father Time down here just decrepitly watching as it all goes on, but the true ruler is death, I'm assuming, as everyone passes on. Once again, I think this is another album about World War I believe, but on Altar of Oblivion always do great with their album covers and with their subject and source material. Alright, number 4 had to include Blood Incantation. Probably the biggest album of the year for extreme metal. And this is also true of the artwork. I think they absolutely nail it with Absolute Elsewhere. It's kind of like a surrealist painting, if you will. We got the pyramids in just this beautiful outer space kind of enchanting. Like, we get stars peeking through in the background. And what is especially cool is that these pyramids are not in pristine condition. These are ancient, decayed. So who knows, like, within the story that they're trying to tell, like, where these pyramids are at. Like, is this the Stargate, if you will, long dormant after like thousands upon thousands or millions of years? Who knows? Only Paul Rydell could tell us that, I think. But this artwork was done by Steve R. Dodd, and once again, there is a full cover. This is not what you see on the album cover. Is not all there is. There's more, and even more, like dead moon and ruins. It's an impressive, beautiful album cover. Number 3 had to include Mr. Adam Burke from Nightjar Illustration. He actually had like 5 album covers I was thinking about including on here. The one I went with was his cover for 10 Ton Slug, Colossal Oppressor. The full album cover for this is just amazing. I mean, I've never seen a slug look this menacing and omnipotent. The green slime, him like literally looking like a mountain, and all these people below just trying to fight it off, I guess. It's really neat when you like look closely, and everyone, all the people that look just like pawns are throwing javelins and spears and God knows what else. Mr. Adam Burke wins the award for the most prolific artist of this year. I want to mention some of his other covers that he did real quick. He was responsible for Ancients Beyond the Reach of the Sun, which I was leaning towards. Zompantly, Beating the Drums of Ancestral Force. That was definitely a contender. Hideous Divinity with Unextinct. That is just the coolest interpretation of Nosferatu I've seen. And Day Tripper, Book 1, The Trip. So then from there, my second favorite album cover of the year is a bizarre one. It's just... it's one of those I could look at for an hour and still find new stuff about it. This is Lowen with their album Do Not Go to War with the Demon of Mazandaran. That sounds like good advice to me. This artwork was done by another Frenchman, I believe, Hervé Scott Flement, and it's insane. It's like some kind of religious city or church, or I don't know, like if Cthulhu and the Ancient Ones could design their city of Raela in like its heyday, this might be what it would look like. It's mesmerizing. It's also extremely colorful. Like, I think that's why this is number 2, is because of how much is going on in just the color department and the overall just texture of it. But yeah, had to mention Lowen with this cover. And the music, by the way, is equally as weird as what the album cover hints at. Alright, then before we get to number 1, I actually have a dishonorable mention I want to highlight real quick. And it's not necessarily that it's a bad album cover, it's just a, what the fuck are we doing here kind of album cover. My one dishonorable mention is Riot V with their album Mean Streets. We all know that Riot has some questionable album covers in the past, and that their mighty mascot Tior is a seal. But this is a bit more of a backdrop into Tior's life, I guess. And he is a street seal, apparently. And he's got a bunch of friends. And one of them is a female friend who likes to flash her tits, apparently. So we've got just a bizarre album cover of seals driving motorcycles, drinking and driving motorcycles, by the way, and wielding swords while driving motorcycles. And then the Tiora seal is just looking odd as fuck in the back with her tit just hanging out. This is actually not a bad album cover by any means. It was just a very interesting one that I had to take note and had to mention kind of as a little little laugh. Know that I do not mean this in a mean way at all, and I'm actually I do like the album cover, but this is the best way for it to end up on the list, I guess. So after that, let's go to my official number one album cover of the year. This is for the sludge doom band Auric, their full-length Primordial Sky. Look at this. It's stunning. It honestly, it transcends a metal album cover, and that's primarily because it's done by John Harris, who is a well-known science fiction artist himself. So he's done like art for science fiction all throughout like the 80s and stuff, and I think we'd all recognize a lot of his different paintings. This is one of those that I have not seen before, and I just think it's amazing. It's majestic, it's stunning, and it's one of those that just feels bigger than life and kind of puts you in your place a little bit as a person. And I think Oryx's music really does the same. Another piece that I kind of like about this album cover is it really feels like a decaying city. Like maybe it's all the pinks and stuff, but it doesn't feel full of life. Like it feels bleak and depressing somehow. Like City in the Sky past its prime and slowly sinking back down to earth. Or maybe it's just a civilization above the rotting world. Either way, it's a depressing notion, and I think it fits the music that Oryx has got on this album, and it's just the album cover that has had the biggest impact on me that I've really wanted to return to. And this wins the I would wear it on a shirt contest for sure. There you go. Just talked about 15 or so album covers. All are phenomenal, and there was actually a ton more. I will link all of the album covers that I was considering down below. I encourage you all to check out the music that is found on these albums, as well as just bask in the glory of the artwork. But yeah, a great year for metal album covers for sure. Cheers to all the musicians and the artists, and cheers to you for watching. Prost. Drink good beer, listen to good metal.